I was there for 3 years. It was very nice, very successful, but it was especially successful with children. The children of Or Yehuda. And a lot of these were really wild children, really anyway, I had big success with them. I used to go to the schools and I would play guitar, and they would all say, the Pesukim, and I would tell them a little story. And sometimes they would bring out, like, there was one school, I remember, what was it called? Saadia Goen, was that they would bring out like 700 children. 700 children. Anyway, so I would go around, especially before Rosh Hashanah, I would go around to all these schools, and I had basically the same thing I would say in every school. And it was the same thing I would say also to the older people and to this. It was the same thing. And to the young children, I would say it slower. And then I would play a little bit of guitar, something, and then I would sound the shofar. And anyway, part of it was telling the story of the Baal Shem Tov, the mashal of the Baal Shem Tov sounding the shofar. And what is the mashal? What is the mashal? The mashal is like this. Once there was a king, and the king had a son. And the prince, and he was like 10 years old, 11 years old, and he was very, how do you say, independent. King's son. And he would look up, he would go up in this turret way high, and he would look down, he would see all these kids playing outside of the castle wall. And a couple of times he said to his father he would like to play with them, and his father said, no, you're a king's son, you can't do that. So one day he snuck out. He snuck out of the castle, and he had a different change of clothes, whatever. He snuck out of it, and he started playing with the kids, and then he saw that there was a sign on the wall looking for the king's son. Has anyone seen the king's son? So he ran away. He ran away, ran to another place. And the money that he had brought, he was playing with, he loved to play. And the money that he had went, but he didn't want to go back. So he saw that people were begging. So he also stuck out his hand and started begging. And everybody had mercy on him. He was an unusual looking, very beautiful child and everything. And he had these torn garments. He put out his hand and people gave him money. And so it went. He started enjoying, collecting the money. And he would move from place to place and town to town. When he would see a sign, have you seen this boy? A picture of the boy, he would see himself as he would run away. And meanwhile, in the course of time, he didn't really have a house or anything. He would sleep outside. And he was, like we say, very independent. And he learned how to deal with the elements, how to deal with the street. He was street smart, and he would sleep in the forest, and he became tremendously strong and brave. And his hair grew long, and he was dirty and filthy, and he would still collect money, and he'd go from place to place. Anyway, after 15 years of this, 10 years of this, wandering around, he already had completely forgotten he's a king's son. He's wandering from place to place, and he comes back to the town, his original town, and he forgot that it was his original town. He forgot that he's the king's son. He forgot he's a human being. And he says, this is vaguely reminiscent. I remember this place. And suddenly sees this big castle. He says, wow, that's a nice big building. Bet I probably can get a nice donation over there. And he goes to the door and knocks on the door. And the guards come and they push him away, and he pushes them back. And there starts a fight, and he's winning. The guards, they can't stand up to him. They have clubs and everything. Nothing happened, nothing. Meanwhile, all this time, this 10 years, let's say it's 10 years, his father has been going up on this turret, and he's been looking around for his son. He's looking around for his son, and he hasn't found him. And every day, he hasn't forgotten his son. And he's looking around, finding, and a little tear comes down. He looks down, he sees there's a little sort of fight going on there, but the guards will take care of it. Meanwhile, his son down there, he gives like one knock, and he knocks down like 10 soldiers at one time, and he raises his hands in victory, and he happens to look up at the turret, and he sees his father. Sees the side of his father's face. Meanwhile, his father is turning to go away. He looked and he didn't find the son again. So he looked up and he sees, suddenly he thinks, what is that? Who is that man? What is this place? am I? Why is this so familiar to me? And suddenly it comes back to him. Whoa, I know what that man is, my father. And this place is the castle where I grew up. And I'm the prince. Wow. But in those few seconds where he started to remember, as the guards came to and they started attacking him, and his guard was down and he received a few serious blows, and now he's starting to lose consciousness. So he looks up and he says, Father, Father, save me. But he forgot the language. He forgot the language of the country. And so he screams out to his father from the essence of his soul, ah! And his father turns around and he hears this scream. And he looks down and he says, what is that voice? What is that voice? And in 1 second, his eyes meet his son's eyes. And he said, woo, those eyes, those are eyes of royalty. That's my son. And he runs down from the stairs in the turret, and he runs to the front door and he pushes the front gate open, and he pushes away all the guards, and he grabs his son. He's all bleeding and he's dirty and smelly and he hugs him and he says, my son, it's you. Never leave me again. And the boy is thinking, oh, my father, how could I have ever left you? So what is the story, the mashal of the Baal Shem Tov? Well, the father is Hashem. The son is the Jewish people. The screaming out and the Jewish people, the whole year we get involved in whatever we do, and we forget about who our father is. We come back to the castle, that's the shul on Rosh Hashanah, and we realize we don't know the language. We don't know how to talk to God. But what can we do? We can scream out, ah! And that's the shofar. The shofar screams out, Avinu, Malkeinu, Avinu Ata, and then I sound the shofar, right? Everybody claps. Anyway, so I went from school to school, and I would say this, and I did the same thing at every school. Well, how long did that take, the story I just told you? 5 minutes. Every school I would do the same thing. Anyway, I went to one school. It was called Kidum Hayeled, progressing the child. Right? I didn't really think about it very much, but I went. I went there and I saw that it was special education. And this was like really special education. Each child had like a teacher and a helper or something like that. And because they invited me to their pre-Rosh Hashanah party. So their parents were also there. The parents of these kids were also there. So in the whole school, there were maybe, 20 kids. And they were sitting down, and then there was the helper, and there was the teacher, and all their parents were there. So I started telling the story, the story of the Baal Shem Tov, and the kids started to go wild. And I realized, whoa, I really got myself into this. These kids, they can't listen to anything. This is special education. They have to be like, treated every moment. They have to have attention. But I only realized this when I was into the story, maybe like a half a minute into the story. They sat there. And I was telling the story, and the kids were growing wild, and they were standing up. And so I looked over to the teachers. I said, maybe I should stop. And there were all the parents there and everything like that. So I finished the story. I didn't pay any attention to the kids, and I finished the story. I sounded the shofar. Then the kids were quiet. That was Rosh Hashanah, right before Rosh Hashanah. I had a Chabad house, so I know how to be a shochet also. So I used to do kaparot, make money for the Chabad house also. You buy a lot. You go to a butcher or something. He buys all these chickens, thousands of chickens, and I stand there and people give them, to the Chabad house. There's a thing they give, a shekel, 10 shekels, whatever you want to give. So I'm shochet over there, and there's this one kid I have the knife. It's a very sharp knife. There's one kid that's running around like a maniac, just running around and knocking things over and making trouble for people, and he's running by me. And it could be very even dangerous. You have this chicken, and you have to slaughter the chicken. And if he knocks you, it could cut yourself. So he's running around. I tell the kids, stop it, please stop it. He's running around. Where is this kid's parents? Where is he? Somebody stop him. So I figured it's too much. So I put the knife down. The kid's running around, and I grab a hold of him. I say, listen, you have to stop. And he looks at me. He said, oh, you're Rabbi Tuvia. You told the story. You were at Kidum Mayelid. You told the story about the king's son. And he repeated the whole story. He was one of the kids that was in that school. And I thought that they were all just, totally out of it. He repeated the whole story. I think about it now. I went up to the side and I cried like a baby. The whole entire story. So it comes to show you that, first of all, it's there, the king's son comes home, and it's inside of every Jew, and every Jew wants it, and every Jew knows it, and that's the Tzion b'mishpat tapari, that's the inside of the Jewish soul. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.